Welcome to our program, Turning Your Side Gig into a Startup. I'm Mary Cronin, a professor at Boston College and the coordinator of the BC Woods College Entrepreneurship Certificate Program, and delighted to be the host of this great lineup of experienced entrepreneurs and founders. First, just a quick word about the Woods College Entrepreneurship Program. We offer courses in online and hybrid format that are designed to support new founders, as well as providing people at every stage of their career with the key skills that are needed to build a successful company and/or to apply an entrepreneurial mindset to innovation and growth in their current organization. I hope that if you have any questions about entrepreneurship or about the courses that we offer, you will reach out to me, and I'll be sharing my email and contact information at the end of the program on our wrap-up slide, along with that of our guest speakers. So now I have my most challenging part of this event, which is, drum roll, to introduce our amazing guest speakers. So if we can see the next slide, please. I literally cannot hope to do justice to the decades of combined incredible experience in executive career success, the accomplishments, and all of the award-winning and dedicated work that these three speakers are bringing to us tonight. So begging their forgiveness if I mess up on anything here among these stellar speakers. I'm going to give it a shot because I want to get us right into hearing from them. And I could literally spend an hour just talking about all their accomplishments, but that's not why you came. Okay, everyone ready? And again, thank you so much to these speakers. And I have to start because we're entrepreneurs here. We're all interested in entrepreneurship, with asking you to share your background and your motivation and your story about your company in 2 minutes or less, otherwise known as the elevator pitch. So I'm going to ask you to give us an elevator pitch that summarizes what you are doing now as a founder and entrepreneur, and/or what you tell people when they ask you what you do for a living. Reminder, 2 minutes or less. And let's start that with Sonia, please.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Professor Cronin, for having me as part of this panel. I'm really excited to be here with Erica and Ross, and it's been so great getting to know fellow entrepreneurs through this process. And I've learned a lot already from them. I'm excited to be here. And thank you for that introduction. Yeah, I mean, I am the poster child for transitioning from a traditional career to an entrepreneur. I worked for many years in consumer packaged goods, as you mentioned, and I worked on a lot of brands. I love brand marketing, and I worked on big brands like Trident and Dentyne and Coppertone. And I transitioned to being a full-time entrepreneur in 2019 to basically start my own CPG company, which I never thought I would do, but an opportunity presented itself, and it's been really great. And the opportunity came via a really very close longtime friend of mine who is an inventor, and she invented a product that we launched in 2021. Our company is Funk Off. It's a lifestyle brand company of oral care and beauty products. We launched our signature product in 2021, which is a combination toothbrush and toothpaste that you use on the go. It's reusable. It's a compact little product that includes the 100% natural tooth gel inside. You twist the bottom, the tooth gel comes up onto the bristles, and then you can brush and clean your teeth on the go when you're out and about. It was inspired by red wine. A lot of people who drink red wine, myself included, and my wonderful partner Joelle, get red wine stains on our teeth, and wanted a solution for that in the beginning. But it's actually an amazing solution for keeping stains off your teeth for all sorts of things. So it's a very useful product. And I worked on it with my partner to basically create a brand that that's been selling in the marketplace, and we were lucky enough to be scouted out for Shark Tank last year. We aired in February of this year and got a deal with Robert, and so now we're on this interesting new path over the past 2 months that again I did not expect, but it's been very cool. And as an entrepreneur, it's been very exciting to have Shark Tank, under our belt, and to take the business to a new level with that. So that is Funk Off and me as an entrepreneur in 2 minutes or less. I hope. Did I do it, Mary?
You did it. No gong.
Okay.
You did it, and thank you. And I'm sure there'll be questions about what was it like to be on Shark Tank, but we'll hold on to those because next, for something completely different and equally entrepreneurial, we're going to turn it over to Ross to tell us his elevator pitch about entrepreneurial artist. Go, Ross.
Sure. I think I think about my career, and even at Fidelity, I was always about thinking through things that were transformative, and particularly in trying to break out and stand out in a crowded market, things that were captivating. And while I was at Fidelity, in parallel, I was doing a lot of self-training in graphic design and the like. And when I had an opportunity to leave, I started to feel like I wanted to bring that to life in a more full-time basis. And what my start has been in my company was really very much of a organic learning agenda. And it was one that at each time an opportunity presented itself, I jumped in. So I started off crafting. I was doing a lot of laser cutting. I learned about things called outdoor markets, bought the tent, figured out how to do the merchandising, got the banner, and went for it. A friend of mine told me a little bit about her wholesale business at some of the larger wholesale shows in New York, and I went to visit, wanted to be there. And so each turn has been really about how can I take on more skills, both from my art, but also wanting to be out there in the marketplace, meeting with people. It wasn't art for art's sake. It was really about how can I engage a community with what I'm doing, ultimately wanting to see my work in people's homes, and they're feeling the same passion that I have as I put it together. I more recently, in the work that I've been doing with my encaustic and resin work, I've jumped in again to be in juried shows, pursuing gallery relationships, very involved in associations and networking. So it's like all of the things that you think about in a very traditional career are things that I've been pursuing as a way in which to be out there, be present, give back to the community, but also look for opportunities to show my work and ultimately, sell my work in the marketplace. I owe a lot of this to my corporate career. It's given me a runway in which I'm able to now participate in this. And I am forever grateful to Fidelity for giving me the opportunity to, to make it financially feasible. Thank you.
And Ross, you made it in under 2 minutes. So I'm going to just add the plug you didn't have, which is that's your work behind your head, right?
Yes, yes.
So if you want to see a sample of what I think he's wearing some of his work on his t-shirt as well.
Yeah, all my design. And Mary was kind enough. We had Newton Open Studios this past weekend, and Mary was kind enough. She came to our house to take a look at my work, and we had a chance to connect, and that was a lovely experience. So thank you for doing that.
Oh,
Mary.
and Ross, I will say this one more thing before we get to Erica. Ross was a terrific guest speaker in my digital commerce class at Boston College when he was a senior vice president of marketing at Fidelity. And so I hadn't seen him in person for 20 years. And I dropped into his open studio and he was like, who is that person at the door? But we quickly reunited in person, and it was a really great program.
Sure.
Erica, we're giving you your spotlight here. I hope you're ready. Unmute and tell us your elevator pitch.
So I started my work as a coach many years ago, and I would describe my journey as slow and steady. It wasn't until last year that I went all in with my coaching and consulting practice. So almost a decade into having my business, because I also had 9-to-5 jobs throughout that time as well. And during the pandemic, things really started shifting. I started meeting with people remotely, whereas before I'd been meeting with people in person. And this enabled me to start working with people all over the country. And most of my work is within the US. Otherwise, I would say all over the world. So I've worked with a couple of Canadians, but other than that, it's mostly been folks in the US. And leading workshops, presentations for universities and organizations all over, and really was just feeling so called to do this work and to be able to focus on it. And it just felt that the early mornings and the nights and the weekends was not enough. I just had so many ideas and so much passion for the work that I really wanted to be able to go all in with it. And so I made the difficult decision to leave a great job doing work that I believed in, so that I could really invest in the business. And what's so important to me about the work that I do in coaching and consulting is having impact. And so I'm able to have a ripple effect through the work that I'm doing with people, whether they're individuals or organizations, helping them navigate career transitions and challenges and providing leadership development support. And so by working with predominantly mission-driven people and organizations, when I help them get unstuck, I'm able to have this ripple effect that's really rewarding. And so that's a little bit about my journey. And I think it's been really just very fulfilling to be able to bring together different parts of my career and to run a business and to do the work that I do with folks.
Thank you. And you're definitely all tuned into the elevator pitch timeline. So much appreciated getting off to a fast start here. And Erica, as a reward for bringing it in under 2 minutes, you get to start the next round of questions. And my next question is one of my favorites, which is lessons learned and surprises. So can you share with us one or two of the major lessons in entrepreneurship that you've learned, especially now in the past year? It's great to know that you jumped off that traditional career path just a year ago. And what lessons have you learned in that full-time year? And what, if any, surprises would you like to mention?
One thing I've learned is how important it is to get comfortable trying things, coming up with an idea and testing it and then adjusting. So that's been just something that I've been doing over and over, especially in the last year while I've been full-time with the business. So whether it comes to systems or service delivery or marketing, it's a matter of trying things, getting some data, getting some feedback, and basically using what's called design thinking as an approach to then make adjustments and keep going from there. So that's really kind of what it's been like for me. And I think that's probably to a large extent what it will continue to be like.
And any surprises you want to mention? You don't have to.
Sure. Well, I guess I don't know that it's a surprise, but I would say something that I learned was how valuable it can be to work with a bookkeeper, especially to set up your chart of accounts, because this was something that I did not have much experience with, the bookkeeping aspect of things. But as you start to have more revenue and more expenses, it becomes increasingly important to reach out to people who have expertise that's going to be helpful to you, especially to get things set up so that you can save time and you can just move forward with more ease. So I think a surprise would be how frustrating something can feel when you don't really know what you're doing, but then how great it can feel when you get the support you need from somebody who does have expertise and experience to share with you.
Great. And Ross, 2 lessons that you might share that you've learned, or one?
I'd say, you know, one of the lessons, this notion of, you know, build it and they will come, was not that I imagined that whatever I was going to do, all of a sudden everyone would show up, but I think the amount of attention I needed to pay, as well as really reaching out to friends and other experts on just how to go about doing this. So for instance, even in my early stages of just putting things out on Etsy, you know, there is definitely a science behind it. So even like I'm wearing a t-shirt, you know, there's 5 million t-shirt listings, you know, on Etsy. And what you start to find out is that there's really a method to the madness. So tapping into expertise that allowed me to better understand the platform and be much more efficient rather than just keep throwing things at it and thinking that somehow, you know, some magic was going to show up. The other part around lessons is, as I've grown as an artist and just now some of the things that I'm doing, just the importance of finding mentors, finding people who have been out there, know how to navigate the gallery scene, know how to navigate shows, finding out about what are the ones that you want to spend time on, what are the things that. So it's great to experiment, and it's certainly, there's been many things that I've done from a hunch, but I have found that being curious to like just ask a lot of questions and find ways in which to, so like all the things that one does in a very traditional corporate career, all the things that I have to think about now too. It's like going it alone and thinking like it's all going to work. You really need to find a network, be reaching out, finding expertise, those people who can help you along the way, both on the business ways of thinking, as well as, you know, approaches to your work. From a surprise perspective, I would say it's like how easy it was to engage people and people really wanting to help. You know, there's a lot, you know, it's like people oftentimes, because I have teenage kids, young adults actually, in some of their 20s, and there's this sort of hesitancy of sorts of like raising your hand and saying, I don't know. And as I was just asking a lot of questions, and I'm part of a makerspace, I'll do a pitch for Artisans Asylum based in Brighton. It's amazing, you know, you raise your hand, I have an idea, like, how might I go about doing this? And the number of individuals who really are there, who are very interested in supporting. And I think that that is a lot of what's out there for the entrepreneurial, you know, beings. A lot of people who are interested in collaborating, pitching around ideas, and so don't be frightened to say you don't know. You know, go out and ask a lot of questions, and you'd be surprised how much help you get.
Great. That's such a good lessons learned and good surprise. Sonia.
Yeah, so a couple of lessons learned. One is getting used to failure and embracing it. Because there's a lot that you think is going to happen that doesn't happen, things that you think are going to go your way that don't, and you don't have the resources because you're an entrepreneur. And I went from this situation where I had so many resources in big companies and then to not have those. And when you fail, it's, it's difficult, but it's also really good learning. And you have to embrace it in the sense that you learn from it and then take that to the next step, the next plan that you have, and prevent, the next failure, potential failure. And then, surrounding yourself with the right people, I think is really important. And it's important, and I'm saying this looking back with, 2020 vision, because I think we surrounded ourselves, and when I say we, I have a partner who I founded the business with, and we surrounded ourselves with a lot of people, but they weren't always necessarily the right people at the right time. And so I think figuring out who the right people are at the right phase or step in your business, or where you are and what stage you're in, is important. And that's hard, but you need to think that through, because certain partners aren't really right for you at the very beginning, but they might be right for you later on. And then one big surprise for me, it might not be for other people, but how important as an entrepreneur your personal brand is. And as a brand marketer, and I love brands, love building brands. I didn't spend enough time building my own personal brand, but that's really important as an entrepreneur. And I encourage people to do that, especially today with so much social media and opportunities to do that, because it's really, really valuable as an entrepreneur.
That's great. And just thinking about the three of you are in such different areas as entrepreneurs and founders. And it's terrific to hear. Sonia, thank you for using the failure word, because that's part of what I try to teach in my entrepreneurship course, is that it's all about having that growth mindset, and every entrepreneur has to take chances and learn from the failure. And that's what makes you stronger and ultimately more successful. It's also great, Ross, for you to say it's all about the network. As a solopreneur, building, your own company, you're using all of the skills and what you learned in the corporate world, and having the good surprises, reaching out to mentors and asking questions. And Erica, the same, that you are continuing to learn, and also realize that you need expertise. You can't do it all yourself. And that's great to hear across so many different backgrounds, and also coming into different passions that you now are following in your entrepreneurial careers, that commonality. And also, Sonia, you mentioned building your personal brand, and we already have questions inevitably in. Great. Keep those questions coming. We are going to get to them in not so long, but there's so much more to talk about here. But one of the questions is obviously, how do you get on Shark Tank, and what's that like? And that's like the ultimate building of your brand, but you're all building your brands in really incredible ways. And so my next question for, and this one, we're going to, I started with Ross last time. No, I'm going to start with Ross this time. So we're going to start with Ross. And this question is really, the reality is, as entrepreneurs, founders, you are juggling an amazing number of priorities, tasks, and must-do lists. It's all consuming. And so how do you do that is the question, in two parts. First part is, this is getting more into the nitty-gritty for the audience, and for me, I'm interested, what are your tools and techniques that work for you? Whether it's, a calendar app, setting times for meetings, or things that you're working in a common group, or whatever it is. So first part of the question is, what techniques have you developed that work for you to help you to address this constant demand for you to do everything that needs to be done on a daily, weekly basis. And, turning that a little bit on its head, then how do you balance your life and your life goals and your sense of personal fulfillment with this desire that you obviously all share to be a success in business and to achieve your startup goals and career goals? So this isn't a short question, and I know I'm pushing it to ask you for a reasonably short answer, but Ross, we'll start with you, and whatever you can share on either the tools and techniques or how you manage that balance.
A feeling that we'll have a variety of different answers on this one. As a sole practitioner, a lot of my early beginnings, what I would say is that, I was having a love affair with my computer. I would say that I just spent so much time, what I learned is I was both designing my work, but in thinking about it from a business standpoint, I also had to think about the marketing. I was also focused on online. And so I was dabbling, it's like how to build an online, it was like everything. So I was in the weeds, and I was also sort of the strategic. And speaking of, I love the notion of building the brand, all of that. So it was like weeds, you're doing, and you're also up here. And so in the early stages, I can't say that I was brilliant at, from here to here, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this. What I did know is that whatever I was focusing on, I was loving what I was doing. And so, I found ways in which to compartmentalize time and ways in which to, get things done. What I would say is I was very deadline driven. And so, and I do this even now. It's like I think about certain timelines as North Stars, and I'm moving towards. So, I have a show, a Memorial Day weekend in Northampton. It's at Paradise City Arts Festival. And so, I know, I start from here to there. It's like there are very specific things I'm going to need to get done, and I start to chart these things out. Very traditional, like on my iPhone, I use notes, so it's like, I'm not using these master, business plans. So in the early stages, and there's some questions here about, how do you begin? In that beginning stages, I feel like it is all consuming in terms of just trying to get it up and running, and you're doing, and you're thinking, and, you set the pace on, how quickly you want it to be ramped up. Fast forward to in terms of the balance, because I will often get told, you're spending so much time. Like if I have my computer, then I'm designing. And so literally I leave my computer now at the end of the day, I leave it over at Artisans Asylum. I just don't bring it home, because it's just going to be, sitting watching TV, and I may be also on the computer. So there is that's a forced habit now of take a break, because there was a time where it was all consuming. But again, one of the things that I learned early on, and just like a quick story, it's like when I first started and I learned about a makerspace in Peterborough, New Hampshire, I was traveling an hour and 20 minutes each way. And in order to miss traffic, I'd have to get up really early. And I was in the car at 4 o'clock in the morning on my way. And it just occurred, and I started laughing, and it occurred to me, when was the last time I had this much spring in my step at 4 o'clock in the morning? And the thing about being an entrepreneur is that, and it's not to say it's easy, but because you're doing it for yourself, and you're the one in a lot of cases, and also, if you have clients, there's certainly demands, but you're really in charge of your own destiny in terms of how much time you're going to spend, what you're going to spend. And because you're doing it for yourself, I always just found it enjoyable and energizing, because it's I remember, going to my first Javits show, and kind of pinching myself, walking in there, but I was like a road warrior for January and February. And I remember just saying to myself, you did this to yourself, and I'm loving every minute of it. So that's the thing. It's sort of like where many of us will be struggling is that when we have families and there's other pressures on outside, like people will be like, hey, do you have time for other things? So you do have to pay attention to that because it is your own. We do find ourselves spending way more time on it to be successful than I think typically of a 9 to 5, 9 to 6, 7, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the way I would respond to some of the, time and just some of the balance issues.
Great. Well, I can see all of us on the screen are nodding, and probably a lot of people in the audience are nodding too. So you're touching a lot of the chords here, Ross. So thank you for that great kickoff. And I'm going to turn it over to Sonia for whatever you want to add to that.
Yeah, just in thinking about this question before coming in, one of the things that I keep as a priority or helps me keep priorities is, as a business, trying to sell something every day, I spend at least, one part of my day thinking about what to sell and how to sell. Because I think as an entrepreneur, there's always so much that you have to do because it's usually just you or you and your partner, and you guys are doing everything. And so you can get bogged down in administrative stuff or things that need to get done, but they don't necessarily create revenue. So you really kind of have to step back and force yourself sometimes to say, okay, I can't do that. It's important, but I really have to, it has to be about selling. So really consciously making that choice every day, literally every day. And I know it sounds funny because, you want to make money, but sometimes you get so bogged down in all that other stuff that you forget about, the really important part. And some tactical things that we do and that I learned earlier in my career is we have priorities and we agree on them and we put them down on paper so that we're looking at them and we're saying, okay, this is the most important, and we put them in buckets. We have our hot bucket, which is hot. It's got to get done. We've got the simmer bucket, so it's sort of the middle level. It's not necessarily on fire, and then the back burner bucket. And we, doing that helps keep things on track, and also helps us because we work together, my partner and I, having the same, we're on the same page and have the same priorities. And then the other thing is if you have to do stuff or you're not getting something done, put it on your calendar. Like that's what I do. I'm very visual, and if it's out here, I'm like, oh, I know I need to do that. But once I see it on my calendar, it's like, okay, that's got to get done. And then for like longer term stuff, I actually have two things. I have like a whiteboard notebook that I like. This is like my creative, like if I need to sit down and think about like further out things or what I want to do, I use like my whiteboard. But then I have my like regular notebook that's where I keep all of my like planning and lists. So it's and getting it done, but you've got your whiteboard situation where you're strategizing and thinking big picture, because both of those need to get done.
And Sonia, you had warned us that you might have an internet connection problem. And right now, we've heard everything so far, but you seem to have frozen in place. So I'm going to just move us along to ask Erica to answer that same question, and hopefully you'll click back in and you'll be moving in the video by the time we get around, because Sonia's going to reconnect. with us to hopefully reconnect her video. So Erica, over to you.
One of the most challenging things I find about being an entrepreneur is deciding how to use my time. And particularly in that first year of going all in with the business, it feels so different because previously it was very clear to me I was working on the business early in the morning, at night after work, on weekends, and it was pretty clear. And then all of a sudden it became like, wow, okay, now you have all of the time to do the business. And to Ross's point, I spent all of the time doing the business, but that can get pretty tiring and that is not necessarily ultra sustainable. And it's good to move one's body every once in a while and see friends and things like that. So it's something I've been navigating and starting to identify a rhythm and certain routines and so forth that feel good and seem to make sense. Welcome back, Sonia. And so I think it's something that just kind of, again, takes some experimenting and some adjusting as you go along. One of the things that helps me when I'm making decisions with anything really having to do with the business, and for that matter, beyond the business, is, am I coming from a place of fear or love? And that is also something that I encourage my clients to think about when they are making decisions about, their careers, their life trajectories, and so forth, their organizations. It's, are you coming from fear or are you coming from love? And I actually read a book about love-based marketing, which I found to be really fascinating and valuable. And so having some questions like that can be very helpful as guideposts. Another one that I like is from a book called The One Thing. And the question they pose in the book is sort of similar, I think, to what Sonia was talking about with, prioritization. So they talk about what is the one thing you can do that will make everything else easier or unnecessary. So thinking about things in terms of the domino effect that you can create. So sometimes it could be a small thing, but it can have a big effect. And so one of the challenges of being an entrepreneur, I find, is figuring out what is likely to have a big effect. And you can do your best to analyze the different options and so forth. But again, a lot of the time, I think you have to just do things with in an informed way, right? Learning from mentors and taking courses and reading books and listening to podcasts, certainly, which I've done plenty of. But at the end of the day, you need to kind of take your instinct and all of the information you have and make a decision and move forward and see what happens, and then adjust accordingly if you're not getting your desired results. So, I think also it's important to take into account what your learning style is and how you like to process information. So I've experimented with a lot of different tools and platforms to stay organized. Sometimes it's very simple things that get the job done. Right now, my favorite method is to have a recurring daily calendar item that is for work that I want to get done. And it's basically a long list of things, but I put the most important or time sensitive things at the top. And I just keep updating that. And I delete things when they're done. And it's super basic, but I have it with me all the time because I can access it on my phone or from the computer. So I don't have to worry about losing it or anything like that. And some other tools that have been helpful have been a scheduling tool so that clients can book directly online without having to have a lot of emails going back and forth with, what time works for you. And a client relations management system. So a database tool to keep track of people as your business grows, that can be really helpful. And then also an email marketing tool that helps you keep in touch with people if you do an e-newsletter or any kind of thing like that. And then my website platform and LinkedIn are a couple of other tools that I'm constantly using. And I think I'm going to borrow Sonia's hot simmer back burner. I like that visual. So those are a few of the things that have been working for me, and I'm always on the lookout for ways that I can be more efficient and have more impact and, get away from the computer, things that will save time and automate some of the processes, so that things don't have to be always done in a manual way.
Great. Thank you to all of you. And, to me, it's, again, you're all different, and your kind of way you run your companies has to be different because of your goals and the kind of business you're in. But memorable, Ross, I will always remember the 4 a.m. step, that you are joyful if you get up at 4 a.m. because you're doing it for yourself. And that is part of that essence of entrepreneurship. And Erica, I love the one thing, and the, is it love? Do it from love and not from fear whenever possible. And Sonia, we're all adopting the 3 pots model of organizing our time. But what I wrote down is sell something every day, because that's my business professor hat. And, at the end of the day, if you don't connect with your customers and you don't manage to bring in revenue, you're not in business anymore. So thank you for all of those great insights. And I'm seeing a great list of questions. So we're moving through this quickly. And I just want to ask, because I think we're all interested in it, and I know I am, you all left traditional careers, rewarding careers, financially rewarding, and I believe also, fulfilling and satisfying, and you felt you were doing good things in the world, and you were. And so I need to ask you, what got you to leave those careers and go into this really demanding, we've just heard, always time consuming and challenging, and sometimes with failure, path of founding your own company and being a full-time entrepreneur? So what was the primary motivator that led you in this direction? And so that's a short question. If you could just give me like a short answer as we move into some wrap-up questions, and then look at all those audience questions that we have to answer. So Ross, I'm going to go back to you and ask, like, what pushed you into making that decision to go out on your own? Oh, you're on mute, so you need to unmute so we get to hear
Sure.
those words of
So,
wisdom.
in fairness, I had a successful career at Fidelity. In 2017, they gave us an opportunity to, take a package, and I evaluated that and I decided to do that. Okay, that said, it's like, well, then how do I find myself, here? I've been a serial crafter and artist my entire life. And it was just this golden opportunity, and I had been doing some things, and that when I was about to leave Fidelity, I was already getting back into doing more of my crafting. And things started happening where I saw that there was an opportunity to make some revenue and also do things that I was really enjoying. And I said earlier about this organic learning agenda. I didn't know that I was going to actually be doing this on a full-time basis. Things just kept on rolling forward because I was really focused on making something happen. And it was about showing up, trying new things. And I kept on getting surprises like, oh, when you show up, things happen. That was the thing that was like, oh, yeah. And so just keep pushing myself forward and finding new opportunities for learning, new successes. And, and it took me a little while to, when people said, so like, what do you do? And they said, oh, aren't you retired? And I said, no, I'm actually, and now I said like, no, I'm an artist. And I own it and I wear it. And I take it very seriously because there's a part of it's like, and I want to be successful at it. And part of that is not just producing work, but being able to make money from it. So I think it was at the end of the day sort of fulfilling a dream that I had to really be able to be creative on a very regular basis, put all of the skills I had around that creativity, and also be able to bring all of the business skills and all of the knowledge that I had to bear. Because just one other thing, like many artists really struggle with the business side. Like they're very good at creating the art. They really struggle on how do you go about getting out there, merchandising and making a run at this. And so one of the things that's been so fun and fulfilling is being able to marry those two things and see like, what's the yin and the yang around all of that. But at the end of the day, it was just a wonderful opportunity to really be able to live my passion on a day-to-day basis. And it has its highs and lows, but I don't regret a second of leaving my prior world.
Thank you. That's a perfect summary of the passion that drives organically, in your case, the decision to move into an entrepreneurial career. And Sonia, while you're back and still with us, I'm going to move it over to you and ask the same question. You had a great, successful career in so many different organizations. You know, what was the one thing that made you decide to pivot into this, own your own company and make that your central focus? Oh, I'm not hearing.
You're on mute.
But not hearing you.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, great, perfect.
Okay, I apologize about my internet connection.
Never apologize.
My phone.
It's good. Thank you.
Yeah. So, you know, the biggest thing that drove me to go down this path was my family and my children. I was looking for flexibility in my life, and when I was working at the large companies, there just wasn't as much flexibility as I wanted to be the kind of mother that I wanted to be. I was, moving along in my career, and then I had my twins, and it became very challenging to balance being the kind of mom that I wanted to be, and having such a demanding career. And my husband had a very demanding career. We were both traveling all over the place and doing all sorts of things that were taking time. And so we had to make a choice. And so I made a choice to actually leave my big company and start doing consulting. And that was really my first entrepreneurial effort. I created a consulting business for CPG companies. And it helped me create that balance so that I could spend time with my kids. I could be around on a day-to-day basis. I could control my time, actually. That was really what it was. It was a way for me to control my time. And I was a consultant for a while, and then transitioned into this role on Funk Off. And but that was really the biggest motivation. But there was always a seed of this in me. My father was an entrepreneur. He was an immigrant and came to the U.S. with very little education, and actually created a business. And I think I lived through an entrepreneurial childhood, and so it was something that I saw and experienced. And so I think maybe I was a little more comfortable with taking those kinds of risks because I saw that growing up. Yeah, but at the end of the day, I think it's a great a way for women to balance career, because it gives you that flexibility.
Great, thank you. That's really a great perspective. And Erica, tell us your jump off point.
I chose to have this visual, whichever side it's on here, because this really describes it. There's a Japanese concept called ikigai, which I often use in working with my coaching clients, and they tend to find it very helpful. So I'll talk about my decision in relation to Ikigai. And basically it is said that this is the intersection of where all of these different things converge. So your skills, your interests, the things you care about, what the world needs, how you can make money, all of these different things coming together. And at that intersection point is what is called Ikigai, which is said to be the key to living a happy, purpose-filled life. And so for me, as I went through the thought process of this, I really felt that I was being called to do this work, to lean into coaching, to help people get unstuck, to help them fulfill their potential and maximize their impact. And it was like this magnetic force that I just felt like I didn't want to fight against. I wanted to let myself go with that, go in that direction. And so, you know, and it took time to get to that point. That was not an overnight occurrence. This was something that had been building and growing for many, many years. And then, as I said, during the pandemic, the business was growing. There were a lot of people making changes in their lives and looking for support to think through how they wanted to use their time, how they wanted to use their skills, how they wanted to continue learning and growing and being challenged and make a positive difference in the world and make a great living doing it, and have free time where they didn't have to be stressing about their job that they were unhappy in, that they could be really enjoying their free time, feeling good about their profession. Because the work that we do is often so closely related to our identity and our confidence. And so I was and am so passionate about this work that I ultimately, you know, made the difficult decision to step away from my 9-to-5 work at the time in communications in a sustainability office in higher education, and focus on the business. You know, it was important to me to be able to work with people in a way that would help bring about transformation, because originally the way I got into doing this work in the first place was that people were simply coming to me and being referred to me for help with their careers when I didn't have an official practice. I was simply doing my career in campus sustainability and later in environmental protection advocacy. And a lot of people were seeking me out because they were interested in my career path, how I had created new roles that I was serving in, and so forth. And so I found myself mentoring and assisting a lot of people at different points in their careers. And ultimately I said, okay, it seems like there's a demand here. There's some interest, there's a need. So that goes to what the world needs, and decided to start the business. And that was several years ago. And then it's grown and evolved over the years as I've invested in my learning and growth and development, and have helped others do the same in their lives and in their careers.
Great. Well, and for all three of you, again, so much in common in that it wasn't like one day you're working in a traditional job and then you wake up and you're an entrepreneur responsible for your own company. You all had really organic paths and passion driven. It was definitely in your case, Erica, the love and the desire to do what you loved doing and help others to find that. And for you, Sonia, it was the love of your family and wanting to also have both the flexibility and the control. And the same with you, Ross, that, you know, it was your passion. You were always in some part of your life an artist, and now you're a full-time artist and an artist entrepreneur. So again, thank you for sharing that. And as I see those questions stacking up, we are going to get to them and more. I want to ask one more for all of you before we turn to the questions in our Q&A list from the audience. And it's a combination again, to kind of give you a chance to talk about, like, what is the most fun for you? You could share one thing that makes you like laugh, smile, dance with joy every week, like every day, maybe even. Like, what do you love the most that's fun? You've talked about what's fulfilling and what meets your passion. Now I'm asking for a little bit lighter response, maybe. But then I'm going to also ask you to dig deeper. And if there's just, and I am limiting it to one, just for now anyway. There'll be more time later for more advice. But if there was just one piece of advice that you could give to someone who is thinking about a career path of starting their own company, what would it be? So first, let's start with what's the most fun, and then we'll go to like, what's that one piece of advice? And we're going to circle back around and go back to start with you, Erica. Are you ready?
Yes. Something that's really fun for me in running the business. Okay, I'm going to say 3 things really quickly. One is meeting other entrepreneurs, as we are doing together tonight, because I get to just learn from them, hear their stories, find out, what's working for them, what they've tried. Like, I love that. It is really interesting to do it from different industries. So I have a friend who has a photography studio, and we talk a lot about, how we run our businesses and so forth. And I have friends who have pet related businesses, like dog, training services and things like that. And we can just talk for hours about our businesses and learn from each other. So that I find a lot of fun. And I also really enjoy content creation in the form of longer form writing. So publishing articles on my blog, on LinkedIn, sharing best practices. I've always loved to write. And so doing that just brings me a lot of joy. And then the third thing I would say is hearing from my clients about when they kind of start that they're rounding that corner where they're going from like the first couple of sessions where, maybe there's not so much clarity and the confidence is pretty low, and they start rounding that bend and the confidence is growing and the clarity is getting sharper, and they're excited and have all these ideas and are feeling really inspired and empowered. And then of course, hearing, success stories down the road as well. So those are all really fun things for me. And then I would say a piece of advice is to enjoy the process of discovering and pursuing your ikigai. I think that's really important to do, and to be kind to yourself, to use compassion as you are doing it, because if you are choosing to be your own boss, which might be new and different for you, you get to decide what kind of boss you want to be. And so I would say, be a compassionate boss.
Oh, what a good insight. Thank you for all of that. And Ross, over to you for fun and then advice.
I think the fun, and it's probably sort of earlier, having relationships with customers on Etsy. And I think that getting feedback, and I got a piece of feedback that woman's son got the piggyback, because I make piggy banks, and running all around the house, and he was smiles, and I think I started thinking about, it's like, oh, I get it, like I'm in the make kids smile business, and that just gave me a lot of satisfaction that something that I was creating had meaning for the recipient, that it wasn't just transactional, but that it actually had, that it made a little kid happy. So that was fun, and that was very rewarding, or is very rewarding. Advice. I think that when you're doing it on your own, it's like also surrounding yourself with people who can really help you, and you sort of have a choice about, like in the corporate world, you're in a team, or you don't really get to decide as much. But then when it's your own, you really get to choose like what type of environments you want to be participating in, who you want to surround yourself with. And so it's like being very mindful of the type of people who are going to be around you, because you really do want those who are going to be cheerleaders, those who are going to be encouraging. It's not easy to go from an environment where you've had, as Sonia mentioned, like a lot of resources and all of this access to, all of a sudden, like you're on your own. So be very, very conscious about, who you're playing with, who you're surrounding yourself with, because that will really get you through some of those times where it's like not easy.
Thanks. Great. And Sonia, fun and advice.
Fun. One of the most fun things that we do is talk to and help young females, young women, young girls who are interested in entrepreneurialism or business. And I think that to me is one of the most fun things that I do. I'm a big advocate for helping women in business and helping them, follow their passions. It's sad that so little support goes to female-founded businesses, actually. Only 2.5% of VC money goes to female-founded businesses, which is insane, 2.5%. When I saw that number, I was like, what year is it? But, so I really, truly do enjoy talking to young women and girls, because I wish they, when they get older, that number's a lot bigger. And I have a daughter myself, and don't want young women to have, some of the challenges that I think some of us have had. And so I have fun, talking to them and hopefully helping them. And then the other thing that I love doing is reading product reviews and hearing what people have to say about our product and how they use it and what they do with it. And, it's just so great to do that. That's like my favorite part of the day, when those come in and reading them. And then my piece of advice for anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur is, go with your gut, because the decision is a really gut decision. It's not a very rational thing, because there's a lot of risk involved, and you can talk yourself out of it. Obviously do the risk assessment. Don't just dive in without doing the risk assessment. But there's a lot of gut in making the decision. And even once you're in it, there's a lot of gut decisions that you have to make, because you don't have the luxury of data and information, because you usually don't have a lot of money to do all the research and get all the data. So go with your gut.
Thank you. What great advice from all of you. And we are now, as promised, moving into answering all the questions that are stacked up, or at least most of the questions, I hope, that are stacked up in the Q&A. And Sonia, it's inevitable, and we celebrate your Shark Tank appearance and victory. And so a couple of our audience wants to know, how do you get on Shark Tank? And beyond that, when did it air? And then how has it impacted your business? So let's just tackle those all at once, please, if you would.
Sure. Yeah, there's different ways that people get on Shark Tank. There are open calls. There's an application process on the website that you can do. The other way, which is the way we ended up on Shark Tank, is the producers are scouting out products and entrepreneurs. And we had been doing social media advertising, and they had discovered us on social and reached out to us, actually, which was really flattering and exciting. We still had to go through the full process. We had to still do the application and go through all the gates and stages, and it's very, it's actually long and arduous, but it was very fun and very worth it. And I apologize if you can hear my dog barking in the background, but it was very much worth it, and it has had a huge impact on our business and in ways that we never expected. It definitely impacted sales. but it also impacted us in terms of just the network of people that we are now, exposed to, and we're very visible. We're very much being pursued by vendors, which has created a lot of work for us, which is great. It's all great things and a lot of fun. So I hope I answered all of the questions.
Thank you. Yes. There's some questions for Erica to answer specifically, and she just generously offered to do that in writing so that everyone can see the answers, such as, what's the exact name of that book about marketing with love, and how does the process that she's illustrating here help you to answer some of the questions. I'm looking quickly at, there was a question about, like formation, like I know Funk Off, you're Inc., you're incorporated. What state are you incorporated in, Sonia?
Delaware.
Yeah, that's like your classic,
Yeah,
you want
C-Corp.
investors, you want to be a big brand, you're Delaware C Corporation. Erica and Ross, what are you incorporated? What form did you choose for incorporation? Both of you are on mute.
I'm a sole proprietor.
I formed an LLC.
So Limited Liability Corporation, LLC. Are you both incorporated in Massachusetts?
I am.
Yes. So I can say I also have an LLC for my side gig of consulting. And it's a very simple and not very expensive way to get that liability protection as a solopreneur or a small company. It's generally speaking, if you have paying clients, it's a good idea to have some form of incorporation and liability protection. And you can do that easily and quickly, and you might want to have an attorney, but you don't even need to. And that's the kind of question, if anyone wants to reach out to me later, I don't want to give legal advice ever, especially on a recorded program, but we've all had some experience with that, and I'm happy to share some of those details if anyone wants to ask. A different question that I think it was addressed to you, Erica, but I think it applies to really everyone, is customer acquisition. And how do you leverage your digital presence, social media, a website? What are you doing for customer acquisition? So let's start with you, Erica, and then let everyone weigh in on that question, which is really at the heart of sell something every day and stay in business and thrive to do good in the world in whatever your chosen passion project and company is. So Erica, do you want to kick off with, how do you acquire customers?
Sure. So I think, with a lot of businesses, word of mouth is extremely valuable, and that's always the way it's going to be. And mine is no different in that sense. So past clients, current clients, people who are aware of my services, maybe they've attended a workshop or an event, and they then have a friend or a colleague or something who they think could be a good fit, who is looking for the kinds of services that I provide, helping people navigate career and life transitions and challenges, and things around leadership development. So in many cases, that's how it happens. Somebody makes the connection. And then increasingly over the years, through the content creation that I've done, the articles I've published on LinkedIn, the articles on my blog, which is on my website, people will find me by searching online. And you can use best practices with search engine optimization that will help you attract the kinds of people who you're looking to connect with. So it's about using particular keywords that they might be searching for and other best practices around that can really help. And then having a robust presence online. So I use LinkedIn a lot. And sort of when I have like a quick story I want to share, or, some best practices for me, LinkedIn is pretty much my go-to. And so I'll do a post on there, or if I have a lot to say, I'll post an article. And so those are a few of the ways that I've connected with clients. So network, social media, content creation, referrals, online searches, things like that.
Great.
And in terms of specifically what I use, somebody had asked about what I'm using for my client relations management system. I'm currently using a tool called ActiveCampaign, which is a client relations management tool. So it has a database. And then also it has automation features for email marketing. So it can do a lot. It is very robust. And I spent many, many, many hours learning just the basics of that over the past year and a half or so. And there's still way more that I can learn about it, but there are only so many hours in the day. So still working on it.
Thank you, Erica. And I saw in the Q&A, people can't see if you put in an answer to a question, you can be sure it's not just to that individual, but that it's to everyone. And I'll also assure everyone, I'll round up these answers and share them in the email I'll be sending out as a follow-up with the recorded link too. So we'll have multiple.
Yeah, Mary, it looks like I
Getting-
typed the answer, but it might be that it's only going to the person who
Right.
asked the question. Otherwise, if people go into if they have the option to go into the answered section of the Q&A, then they might be able to see them. But I'm not sure what the attendees are able to see and what they're not.
We'll get it out to everyone with the link to the event. And so, Ross, do you want to just chime in with your customer acquisition strategy and what kinds of techniques work for you in that regard?
Certainly, for some of the work that's a bit, online specific, like early on, I was doing a lot of posting on social, and interestingly, listening to Sonia about being found because they were doing social advertising. I was just doing a lot of posting and I was found in searches. So the Jewish Museum in Manhattan reached out to me because they liked what I was posting around these charity boxes we call tzedakah boxes. And then I found myself having a wholesale account with the Jewish Museum, and it was another one of those like, wow, you don't ever really know what's going to happen. So trying to be active in that channel, and I actually need to do more. And certainly, email marketing. But I think with a lot of what I'm doing now is, and being part of shows, whether it's jury shows or being, I'm a member at Provincetown Art Museum, and they have open calls for art. It's trying to be as visible as possible to build your brand, have people understand the type of aesthetic that you're creating, because it's a very visual medium and it's not transactional in terms of like marketing to people per se. I think it's much more around building maintaining awareness. So things like that monthly newsletter, and I know this about consulting friends as well. It's really about just being in front of people. So for me, if I'm sending out a newsletter, it's, hey, here are the shows that are coming up. It'd be wonderful to see you there. Yes, of course, I have a website and it's great that they can click on a link to get there, but it's a little less of a buy my widget today, because that's not the type of sale that I'm in. And, ultimately, the goal would be, finding people, and a lot of times it happens in a face-to-face capacity because they get to talk with you about your work. And that you find over time that, people who are interested in collecting multiple pieces of yours over time. So it's very relationship oriented. So I balance both. There's a bunch of things that are very transactional. You can go to my Etsy site and buy a t-shirt. But my, the work that I'm like the things that you see behind me, like that's not a transactional item. That's much more of a relationship. And it's very helpful to be present face-to-face for those types of engagements.
Great, thank you. And Sonia, from a consumer product point of view, a very different answer, but what are your customer acquisition go-to strategies today?
Yeah, we are mostly direct to consumer. We do social, paid search. on Facebook and Instagram, and then also paid advertising on Amazon. Amazon is a great direct-to-consumer platform for us. We do have a wholesale business, and we use trade shows to reach and acquire wholesale customers. So those are our main tools.
Great, thank you. And a fascinating question for all of us to weigh in on, but Erica, I think especially aimed at you because of your chosen career and also because of the process that you're displaying. If someone doesn't know what their passion is, they're not driven to any particular purpose or career in a company format, like what do you recommend? Like, how do they discover?
Sure. Yeah. I lead entire workshops on this topic on career clarity. So, you know, if you visit my website, you can sign up to receive more information. What I would say is, in 2 words, try stuff. You need to try stuff. You need to just go to different events and go be part of different conversations and communities and organizations and activities, and see what you like and what you don't like and what you're curious about, and you can eliminate some things, and that is very helpful. And you will also identify some things that you're really excited to get more into. And you know, to your point at the beginning, Mary, adopting what's called a growth mindset, really getting curious can go far.
And I'll just add to that, in my entrepreneurship course, I asked the students to keep a journal, a discovery journal. And the first week is to, and I'm sure Erica does a much more sophisticated version of this in her workshop. The first week is like, list the things that make you happiest. You know, when you think about your week, what are you most happy doing? And then envision yourself in 3 to 5 years and write, you know, a paragraph about what you will be doing that will make you feel good about your life. And that's your best life in 3 years. And somewhere between that, what makes you happy today and what you would like to have your life be a few years out into the future, there is that discovery process. And facilitating it with a workshop is a great idea. Sonia, Ross, any suggestions about that discovery process of identifying your purpose?
I would just say that go on vacation. I always have the most discovery and soul searching moments when I'm on vacation, because I'm more relaxed. I'm sort of in a mindset where I'm not bogged down in the nitty gritty in the day to day, and I'm sort of able to think big picture. It usually happens best when I'm on a beach, because that's like my happiest place. And that's where I usually take my little notebook that I tried to show earlier, but it may have crashed in the middle. But and you just, you know, kind of open up a white page and just do some soul searching. So go on vacation.
That's good advice for all of us. Thank you. Ross, any other suggestions for that? We're approaching our wrap up, and we're going to have to go there.
I think that, I mean, I did go through a process of working with an executive coach. So, you know, someone like Erica, and found it really valuable just to take a look at what I was up to, my skills, all of these different things. And, you know, that consultants will have a process to kind of narrow it. And it's not like I didn't have any idea, but it's sort of like, really, where do I want to focus now? And I did this, you know, I'd been working for quite a while, but I was feeling like I needed to recharge and really be mindful of like, okay, you know, am I heading in the right direction? So, you know, if you have the resources to do that, the other thing is, like, if you're young in your career, you know, finding a company that really allows for a lot of different experiences. So I love the idea of, you know, like, try stuff. It's really helpful to be in environments where they encourage try stuff. So, early in your career, it may not be the first thing you do is jump out and be an entrepreneur. It could be, get your legs, get all of those skills in place, find a place that's going to nurture that. And above all, what people always ask me, like, what's the one thing? The one thing for me is like, it's critical who you work for. If you have an amazing boss and somebody who's like the wind beneath your wings, like try this, try stuff. It's always about who you work for. You can be in the crappiest of situations, but if you're working for somebody who can champion you, somehow those lousy days don't feel so bad. So environments are critical, and you want to find those environments that nurture your curiosity and allow you to explore, allow you to fail, allow you to trip. And that would be my biggest advice. A little older, you have more resources, go to a consultant. Early career, find those environments that are going to nurture you, that are really going to encourage you to try those things and give you the opportunity to do so.
Great.
And I'll add, if you don't have a place of employment that's supporting you to do that, you can go volunteer. And that can be an
Great opportunity.
amazing way to gain experience in so many different environments and different communities. And I'll echo, coaching can be extremely helpful. Talking things through with somebody in a trusted space, and journaling, as you said, Mary, is a big part of what I do with clients, and can be extremely valuable.
Thank you. Thank you. And on that thank you theme, Anna, if you can put up our wrap up slide for the contact information that I promised. And if our speakers have a minute and they can answer any of the other Q&A directly, if it's addressed to them as we wrap up, I just want to say incredible thank you. These are three, as you've learned, really accomplished and super busy people who have spent their time with us to really share the lessons they've learned, the insights they bring, and generously sharing here their contact information. I would say I am totally open to any of your follow-up questions if you want to ask for some of the details of anything that's been covered tonight. If you're interested in any of the courses that we have at BC on entrepreneurship, or you just want to talk about how do you find your purpose, I am there for you and would be delighted to hear from you. And we are really at our wrap up. So I had promised our speakers like a final remark, and I'm just going to go around and ask them each to make like a 30 seconds or less final remark as we say thank you, and I hope you enjoyed this program and got something out of it. Sonia, one final thought? And we're not hearing you again.
Sorry, manifesting. I'm a convert to manifesting. I think if you manifest, I think that's a really great way to achieve your goals. There's a quote that I love, which is what you think, you become. And so I love manifesting, and I highly recommend it.
Wonderful. Erica, one final thought. Take off mute.
As soon as I remember what I was going to say, I'll come off mute. Okay, so I would say to think about what is standing in your way from leading the kind of life that you feel like you want to lead, and then get very specific about where that where that fear is coming from, or what that is about. And then by doing some research, you'll be able to figure out, some ways that you might be able to get past that fear. And of course, mindset, as Sonia says, is really instrumental in that as well.
Thank you. And Ross, you get the last word.
Honestly, listening to my the other panels, I love the idea of just, try stuff. And all of those things, I think you've heard so many wonderful messages. I don't really think that there's a last word other than take all of this in and be brave and, follow your passions and jump in.
Thank you to everyone. Thank you to our audience. And it's a wrap, folks. We hope to hear from you.
Good night now.
Good night.
Bye, thank you.